have one of the important character actors from the movie here, actor Dwyer Brown, who's better known as John Kinsella, who is the ghost father of Kevin Costner's character, who at the end of the movie, for those who haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for those, but I have to tell you, that's who our guest is. He comes back as the ghost father to play catch with his son one more time. Very emotional movie, very powerful film.
And what is it about that movie? I know a lot of people say it's probably one of the best sports movies of all time, but it's really more about that relationship between father and son.
It's a parents and child relationship story, too, and it's a fantasy about life after death, which many people believe is real. Costner's character hears his voice in his ear tell him, "Build it and he will come."
They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
And, of course, in this, originally we think is Shoeless Joe Jackson, played by Ray Liotta, who comes back to play ball in this baseball field in the middle of a cornfield, It's a fantasy film, but it seems so real to people because it's rooted in reality. Near the end of the picture, I hate to be a spoiler here for those who haven't seen it. I can't imagine there's too many people who haven't seen this movie, where Shoeless Joe Jackson turns to Costner's character and says, "Build it and he will come." And of course, the he is his deceased father, who comes back as a young man, played by actor Dwyer Brown, who will be our guest speaker. And it's, of course, the great line is this heaven? He goes, "No, it's Iowa."
It's the place dreams come true.
And is Dwyer pretty excited about coming back to the Midwest for this?
He comes back quite a bit. In fact, he was not to Omaha, but he was in Iowa just a week or two ago by Darsville, where they filmed the movie. And of course, as you probably know, they're expanding the whole area into this huge conglomeration of fields and an entertainment complex. It's really turned into an enormous extravaganza over there. The popularity of this film is just amazing.
And this is something you've been doing for many years. Share with our listeners, because maybe they're not familiar with the events that you've done in Omaha, some of the films that you've brought in over the years.
I started in 1992 when I was only 5 years old, of course, being a little sarcastic. But my first event was to my mentor and hero, special effects legend Ray Harryhausen. He had just gotten a Life Achievement Oscar that year. I brought back my favorite of his pictures, the Jules Verne adventure, Mysterious Island, and his favorite of his films, Jason and the Argonauts. These are epic adventure fantasy films. I showed that film and followed it a year later with a film I feel is still the greatest movie I've ever seen, Charlton Heston in William Wyler's production of Ben-Hur. I think everyone knows that movie, of course, The Great Chariot Race. It's a biblical epic that appeals to the wide audience, and I'm so proud of that event. This would be my 46th event, Sheila, if you can believe that, in 30 years. My gosh, that must be crazy. And I haven't been able to do any for 2 years because of the COVID crap, and now that's pretty much largely behind us, thank God. I can't think of a better movie to get back in the groove in than Field of Dreams just a few weeks before the College World Series starts here in Omaha.
What's interesting about your journey, I know sometimes I've been watching Turner Classic Movies and then I see, there's Bruce Crawford talking about classic films. But it's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? Because I find it fascinating. You took your love of movies and music of movies and made it into your life.
Yeah, it's true. And I never left the Midwest. Did it all right here. Back in 1988 with KIOS Public Radio in Omaha, my friend Bob Coate, who was the program director at that time, we produced a 2.5-hour-long radio documentary on the music of composer Bernard Herrmann, who's famous for the music to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Who doesn't know the music to Psycho, right? And Twilight Zone, and his last film was Taxi Driver. His first movie was Citizen Kane, quite a career. And I knew him the last year of his life, and I was able to write and produce and co-host this 2.5-hour-long epic documentary, which we broadcast locally here in Omaha and then, of course, throughout the region. Then NPR put it on their extended satellite, and it went nationwide. And then, after that, worldwide on English-speaking radio in Europe and in Australia, amazingly. And now, of course, you can listen to it online. It's just really put me on the map, Sheila. It really did. And here we are 30 years later and doing a film that takes place here in the Midwest, and of course, particularly in Darsville, Iowa, which is, we're very proud of our region, as you are too, I know, being a Midwest girl. This film is a Midwest classic because it takes place in Iowa. It's here in Omaha. That's our backyard, Dyersville. We're Field of Dreams. So it's kind of going full circle in a way.
And I had a chance to attend a couple of your events over the years, one for Casablanca, and there was another one that featured James Bond. Nobody does it better. And it's great to see some of the people that you bring in for these different film events.
Right. Yeah, we had 7-foot-tall Richard Keel, who played the steel-teethed character villain Jaws, and The Spy Who Loved Me. I remember you being there for that. And he was quite an interesting guest and a real gentle giant. And these are iconic figures in our culture. Everybody knows who he is. And then we've had people like Jane Seymour was my guest for Somewhere in Time. I had Debbie Reynolds here for Singing in the Rain. I've had all kinds of legendary people here in front of the camera and behind the camera. Not just movie stars or actors and character actors. Like Dwyer Brown is a character actor. He's been in tons of movies and TV shows, but people know him mostly as from Field of Dreams. So yeah, we make it an event. We're going to have displays at this event in the lobby at the Omaha Community Playhouse. It'll be my first event screening there. In the lobby, we're going to have the history of Nebraska baseball. Dwyer Brown will be autographing and selling his book. He's got a book about the making of the movie called If You Build It. He'll be autographing and selling his book and posing for pictures. And we encourage people who come if you want to come in your favorite baseball team's uniform. Make it like you're going to a baseball game as much as you're going to a movie. And we're also going to do a Q&A for the first time, Sheila. I'm going to do like my friends at TCM. We're going to have a couple of chairs on stage in front of the screen, and I'm going to have Dwyer and I have a microphone each, and we're going to do Q&A, and we're going to put a microphone out in the audience for any questions people would like to ask him about the making of the film and his part in it. So we're going to be just a little bit different this time when we're added attraction to the event.
If people are listening and they maybe haven't watched a lot of classic movies in the past, do you have any suggestions for people to kind of get started? I love classic movies. I love Montgomery Clift is one of my favorites of all times. And Donna Reed, because I grew up in the Denison, Iowa area.
Right,
but
exactly.
If someone's listening and they kind of want to get started maybe watching classic movies, what would you suggest maybe try to get to watch?
I think the people that say they haven't seen classic films actually have seen them. I think what kid out there hasn't seen Wizard of Oz a dozen times in their life at least?
You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. You'll find he is a whiz of a whiz, if ever a whiz there was.
The Wizard of Oz is something every kid sees in this country. That movie was made in 1938, and yet people watch it all the time, every year. It's shown several times a year. So they already are exposed. And at Christmas time, I'm sure they all watch It's a Wonderful Life or Scrooge. And Gone with the Wind, I should say, is a perennial classic, and the original King Kong. I think you can't go wrong with any of those titles to get started, because once you watch those, you'll be hooked.
Before we say goodbye to you, do you have any other future film events you would love to put together if you could?
I have October 21st being held for the fall event, and I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but it might be a Halloween-themed film. I did 12 years ago, I did Young Frankenstein, had Cloris Leachman here, and that was a riot. So we'll see what we do this fall.
Maybe this is heaven. Good night, Ray. Good night, John. Hey, Dad? You want to have a catch?
I'd like that.